This is the case for. I am your host, Matt Campobasso. Tonight, we're doing something I've been excited about since I started this show a week ago. For the first time ever on the case for, I am not alone. I've got a guest, and it's not just any guest. It's somebody who wants to walk straight into one of the more hotly debated topics in the world of art and technology today. Here's the question. What happens to music when we stop treating it like a sacred human language and start treating it like a commodity? And what happens when AI starts making music that sounds good enough for a fraction of the cost with zero humanity behind it? Is that progress? Or is that slow motion extinction for human made music as we know it? So today I've got my guest here. His name's Matt Anderson. He has a strong view on that. He believes, these are his words, the commodification of music is killing the art form, and music is too important to humanity to lose. Matt believes the law around music, IP law, that we've built should be changed to advance the art form, not just commercial interests. And he believes very seriously that AI generated music is a fundamental threat to the music business if we stay locked into a profit only business model. So today on the case for, Matt Anderson joins us to make the case for music being free, not worthless, not valueless, but free in a different sense. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Matt Anderson, hello, he's here. He's many things. He's a friend, he's a husband, he's a dad of two amazing kids. He's a professional in the financial services industry. He is also the pitcher for our 12-inch men's softball team, the Swingers, and quite a good pitcher, if I may add. And most importantly, for the purposes of why we're here today, Matt's a musician. During COVID, Matt maniacally taught himself to play guitar, much to his wife's chagrin. And he has taken that passion from his home to the public arena where he plays live music frequently, both guitar and singing. As a man of about my age, Matt has watched the industry change from CDs to downloads to streaming and beyond into this current world where streams are cheap, attention is expensive, and now AI models can crank out new songs in seconds. Matt is one of the more thoughtful people that I know on many, many topics. He and I have spent a lot of time in the dugout at softball games chatting about things from parenting to relationships to kids. But what I want to talk with Matt about here today is something he's really passionate about, which is what all of this means for artists, not just financially, but spiritually and creatively. So Matt, without further ado, welcome to the case for.
Thank you very much. That was a very good introduction, very fair introduction. I've had this discussion with some of my friends. Would not present my case nearly as generously as you just did. And you
I mean, it's
also
a good
said that
case.
you also claimed that I am both a pitcher and a musician, and those are also borderline cases for me here. So thanks for giving me the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, they're facts, right? I didn't qualify your skill level at either, but I think you're better than you give yourself credit for.
Well, thank you.
So listen, before we get into your opening statement and your legal philosophy and the apocalypse of AI music, I want to start simple. Matt, when did you first realize that music was something that wasn't just a sound in the background for you, but something you wanted to give a part of your life to?
I think that probably around like 2020, probably COVID related, but I just had a very strong feeling that, you know, I had something inside myself, and I feel like most people have something inside themselves that cannot be expressed easily through just words. That you had to sort of develop a new language to express some feelings that you had inside of you that I think that art, creativity, in this case, music, can draw out. So I felt that I really had to teach myself that new language to reach those parts that I thought were not being adequately explained by just talking to people.
And do you feel like tapping into that part of you and that communication method, like, do you feel like it did unlock that for you and it allow you a different way to express yourself?
I mean, I would say that saying it unlocked it is a little overstating it. It's little victories, like it's, if you dedicate something, if you start practicing every single day on something, then you do see improvements. And I think that's very rewarding. It's very rewarding, especially because, like, a lot of time at work, you're putting a lot of work in, you're not seeing the results immediately,
The
when
output. Yeah, you
when
get a
you're
paycheck, right? Like you get a paycheck every couple of weeks and you're like, all right, there we
yeah,
go.
but like,
Yeah.
there's something, it's like if you're working outside in the yard, you put in a few hours in the yard, your yard looks better. Like, you put in the work, it looks better, you can see exactly what happened. The results, like, aren't nearly as immediate for, like, learning, music or language or something like that, but they do come, because, like, if you put the practice in, you do see yourself getting better. And just that process of getting better incrementally, that's very rewarding. Even if I never got better, even if I never got good or good enough to, like, want to show other people, it still would be valuable just in the discipline of just practicing something every single day.
Yeah, and this is something I'm toiling with an actual subject for a future episode, but it's the case for creativity over consumption, right? We live in a society where we're just constantly consuming everything, right? Like streams, TikToks, YouTube, music, news, and that's a lot of the world making its way into us. There's not a lot of opportunities, I think, especially as we get older, right? We kind of fall into our lane to take part of who we are and put it into the world. So I think music does that, right? Even if you're playing someone else's song, you're doing that. And so I think there's an amazing case to be made for that. That's for another episode. But I
Yeah,
guess
I mean, look, that's a lot of the same themes from what I'm saying. I mean, I was kind of intentionally being a little bit provocative in, like, the music should be free type thing, and having, like, a little bit of a legal hook to it.
yeah, you got to get a hook, right?
But essentially, that's what it is. It's, creativity versus consumption, and everything in our society is pushing you more towards the consumption side. And
Definitely.
if we're not feeding that creative side, we're losing a huge part of what makes us interesting, creative people.
Absolutely. Well, listen, so I'm sold. I think we've established you know what you're talking about and you have deep-seated beliefs on this topic. So you're not just somebody who listens to music and you've got opinions, you make music. So let's do this from this point on in a way that we like to do it here conceptually on the case for. I'm going to hand you the floor for an opening statement. I know you're our first guest, but you're married to an attorney, Kelly, great lawyer, great human being. So hopefully you've picked up a few skills along the way that are going to help you out here today. What I want you to do, and what we're going to try to do here in the next 25, 30 minutes, is let you make your case about why you think music should be free and what exactly do you mean by that? So with that, Matt, the floor is yours for an opening statement.
All right. So what I would like you to think about is, like, go back as far as you can imagine humans when we first started a society. Music, art, creativity was with us from the very beginning. Art, music, that is as old as humanity itself. And it's only within the last maybe 150 years that we have had the technological advances in distribution, in well, advances in, like, instrumentation, but also like advances in recording. So anything that we can think of as, like, popular music, probably about, like, 150 years old. Anything we can think of as, like, recorded music, we're really just talking about, like, the last 100 years here. And so everything that we think of as the music industry, in the range of music, like the history of music, this is a tiny little slice here. And, like, it is so driven by technology and by the massive amounts of money that could be made once you introduced, like, the recording technology and the distribution technology, that I feel like we have gotten away from what is kind of baked in from the very beginning, which is music, dance, art, all of that is as old as humanity itself. And everything about music that we think about is about how we consume it. We talk about streaming, we talk about like, everybody's Spotify Wrapped came out yesterday. You see, like, how many minutes you consumed it. And it's growing every single year. It's just like, it's just grabbing more share of your time every single year. And but music is not just being a consumer of music. Music is something that you should be able to participate in. And I think that the more we can go towards music as something that is community building, even if people are not great at it, Like, do you think that all those people 200 years ago, bringing a fiddle down to the bar, do you think they were all great? No, but they had no idea. They didn't have, TikTok showing them all these amazing guitarists across the
To
world
judge yourself, I
that are like
guess.
a bazillion times better than them than they could ever be. But that's not the point. The point isn't that you should be, the best in the world at something. The point is it should be part of your community. My opening statement would basically be saying that's what we should be focusing on, building a community, and you going back to the building blocks of like things that have been with us since the very beginning, instead of just strictly trying to figure out monetarily how do we monetize this, consume as much of it, and get people paid for it. That's not the point.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think one of my favorite things about music personally is the way it makes me feel things, right? A lot of my favorite artists, the Avett Brothers, Damian Rice, pretty saccharine, heavy stuff, right? You can feel whatever the emotion is when they're singing that they must have been feeling when they wrote this. To me, that's communication, right? It's expression. And so I agree. I think when we start thinking about, the Unwrapped, that's a great point. I got mine yesterday. I think it was like 79,000 minutes. It was like you spent 53 days last year listening to music. Now there's podcasts and audiobooks in there, but again, it's all about quantifying it, right? Because they want to grab your attention. And so I hear you. So let's unpack this a little bit. You say, in my words, but also in the expression of your spirit here, the commodification of music is killing the art form. So give me evidence. Like, what is, and I know for our listeners here, obviously, like I talk about you as a musician. I know I've seen your journey. I've known you now for 4 or 5 years. You went from learning to play, talking about how you taught yourself during COVID to, you play at bars, restaurants, farmers markets in the geographic area where we both live. So that is, you're out there actually making music. You're not just here to say people should, you're doing it. So what does that look like? Tell me why, not why, but tell me what your feelings are on, you know, look, can it be both things? I guess that's the question, right? Can it be it makes money, but also people express themselves? Like, how is the money making part of this killing the expression?
I think that there's lots of people who they have, and again, I'm going to be getting like a little mushy on this here, but this is
Please.
seriously how I think of it. Everybody's got like a song inside of them. All right. And there are lots of people that I think they're listening to, tens of thousands of hours of music. They're consuming so much music, and all of that is all very professional. And it's all very, it's all incredibly musicians, and it's all mastered to perfection. I think there's lots of people that look at that and they say, I could never be able to do that. And I'll never tap in to that song that they have inside of themselves here. I think we're losing out on so much creativity because there's people who say, I'm never going to be good enough to make money doing this. And
So
if
I
I'm
shouldn't do
not
it at
and if
all.
I'm not good enough for people to pay to want to see me, then it's not worth doing. And I think that so many people have that sort of mentality where they're like, well, if I can't be a professional at it, then what good is there? Then it has no value because there are what seems like tons of people who are better than you could ever dream of being. And I think that that stops people from being creative. So by making it where it's like the only value is if people are willing to pay you for it, where you start like attaching monetary value to something that is a creative endeavor, I think that kills that creative spark. And I think we're leaving a whole bunch of creativity on the table from people that think I'm not good enough to do it.
Okay. So it's a barrier to entry psychologically, right? Like I can't do it this well, or I can only do part of this a certain way. I'm not going to do it at all. So I completely understand that. I guess this is, and being this being a new podcast, I'm working through like, oh, we're gonna have like an outline, and I sent that to you, and we chatted a bit about it. We're gonna go off script. First guest, first outline. We're gonna go off script. I want to talk with you then about let's talk about AI, right? And you and I have had conversations separate from the podcast about AI and its use and specifically with music. And what are your feelings about AI? Like, is it killing the art form? Should it be banished from the musical arena? Or hey, it's another tool in the toolkit of people who are trying to express themselves.
I think that it's good and only getting better. And that, uh, if you think about it as like, if you took a pie chart of everybody's Spotify Wrapped, like all those minutes that people are consuming, I think that right now AI generated music is a tiny little sliver of that. I think that next year that sliver gets a little bit bigger, and I think that it starts taking a little bit more market share, because I think that the financial incentives are going to be very great for people to be able to put out music that is extremely plausible and enjoyable. I mean, like, it's like, for people who are like, "Oh, AI could never do what a human could do." Uh, I don't know. I've heard some that sounds pretty damn good, you know? Like, it's not that it's bad. It's that it's so perfect at knowing exactly what you would like. Its goal is to keep you listening for as long as possible.
It's an algorithm, right?
Yeah.
It's another manifestation of an algorithm.
Yeah, and so much stuff, like, around, like, media consumption, in our society is just about, like, just trying to get more and more of that, I don't know, mind to share, like, it's just more and more of your time. I can't remember who it was, it might have been, like, the Netflix CEO or something, but they're like, "Yeah, our biggest competition is sleep." Like, and because like, you're coming up against, like, your limit is the number of hours on the day that you can be consuming that sort of
Right. We've
content.
gotten everything else. People have to work. They have to
Yeah,
go to the bathroom. Like, you know,
and so if there are tools out there that are able to, like, be so laser targeted on getting you to keep on consuming, to not turn it off, to not change the channel, to not go do something else, um, like, AI is way better at doing that than like a human musician would be able to. And so, like, that's when I'm saying that, like, it's not that it's bad. And I think that AI has the ability to be, like, creatively, could open up, I mean, there's creative avenues that could come from AI that I haven't even imagined yet. Nobody's
sure.
imagined, you know? I don't wanna do anything that would, like, stifle, like, some sort of, like, creative, innovation in the future, but if there's a profit motive associated with it, and with any sort of thing where it's a streaming service, there is a profit motive associated with that. And if there's a profit motive, then all the incentives are going to be get people to consume as much of it as possible. And if it's that, then you're going to be leaning on the AI tools because that's going to be able to do that better than any of us can. It's
Yeah.
too good. It's like it's
So,
frighteningly good.
so I think if I'm hearing you and understanding you correctly, and I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'd love to get your reaction to something. So you and I were texting a little bit in advance of this episode, and I shared something with you. You know, some people who are listening to this might know this about me. You talk about getting mushy or that song inside of each of us. I've written poetry since I was like 15 years old, right? I was that like super emo kid who was like, I need to express myself. I was pretty shy. So I did a lot of writing. And as I've gotten older, I've taken some of that writing and turned it into like lyrics. Now, I'm 47 years old. I've been writing poetry slash lyrics for 30 years. And, I have a guitar and a banjo on my wall over here. I can play them passively. Play is probably the wrong word to use. I'm okay, but I'm not, no one's going to come listen to me. Right. And I don't even have the belief that I'm talented enough to sit down somewhere public. I don't know. I just wouldn't want that to even be something that I would consider doing at this point in my evolution of playing music. So along comes AI. And this is a month ago. I'm online. I stumble upon this AI tool, and essentially, what it allows you to do is you drop in your lyrics, you create a style prompt, and literally seconds later, it kicks out a song with your lyrics. And you know, I would love your opinion. Not, well, I guess I would love your perspective on, is that good? Is that bad? Because in my mind, and I'll tell you before I turn it over, it's a good thing, right? Because I've been able to create some of this music and put melodies and a voice that's far better than mine, although it is robotic, um, to some of the lyrics that I've written that are incredibly meaningful to me. Songs about relationships, my kids, my parents, things I've been navigating the last couple of years of my life. And I went online and I researched it and I threw it up on Spotify. And I'm not looking to make any money. I'm not delusional. I know that this is not a money play for me, but I've been able to share some of these songs with people. And I've been like, hey, yeah, I wrote this. Like, by the way, the music, the voice, all of that, full disclosure, that's AI. The lyrics, that's me. Like, and I do think beyond just saying, hey, this is something I'm feeling, there's an art form to just writing lyrics, right? There's a lot of people. I remember when A Star is Born came out a couple years ago, listening to Lady Gaga talk about, she flew to Nashville and worked with these songwriters. It's all they do, right? They just write lyrics. And so I'm not looking to break into that industry. I have no interest in moving to Nashville, although this time of year in Chicago is freezing. So maybe I should. Because of AI, I view it as a bridge, right? Like these are my words, and AI has taken that last mile that I could never walk, and it has turned it into something that I can share with people. And I'm not out there broadcasting it, but I have shared it with like family and friends, and I've gotten some feedback, and people are like, "Wow, this is like really beautiful, the lyrics." And so, what are your not about my lyrics, but what are your feelings on someone like me using AI as a step stool to create music that admittedly, I would say 60-40, 70-30 is AI driven, but there is a slice of humanity in there. Is that good? Or is that kind of a gradual erosion of the true art form?
So I listened to the songs that you had, and so there's the one where it's like there's a song, there's a remix of it, and so like
Okay.
there's also like a couple different versions of it. Um, they are. You said it sounds robotic. It does not sound robotic at all. It is extremely plausible. If I heard that, I would not have guessed that was AI. I it sounds like a real song. It does not sound like it came from you, but
Right. Yes. I
but
know what song you're referring
it
to.
sounds
That's
like a real song.
yeah.
So, I mean, but the art form that you are using that for is the writing. Like that is like it is a um like you're using that, which will hopefully inspire you to do more writing and more
Mhm. And
creative
it
writing with
has. It
that.
has.
And so if it's using it to enhance the writing because you get creative enjoyment out of writing, then it's only a good thing. Like that's like the song, like when I talked before about like, hey, the song's in your heart, you're getting that out through writing. You chose to do it that way. You didn't do it through singing or through playing music. You gave it to, if you gave that to other musicians, that would be valid. You gave it to AI. Now, is it something that, like, I mean, I would personally, I would rather hear it from you, even if it was a billion times worse. I would rather hear it come directly from the person, than to like offload it to
Yeah, to
AI.
outsource it.
Yeah,
Sure.
to outsource it because basically, I mean, it's like, performance enhancing drugs, for
Yes.
but the point is not for the like for you, the muscle that you were exercising was the writing muscle. And you're not using drugs on the performance enhancing drugs on the writing muscle. You were just using it for this stuff to get it out there because you wanted to see it turned into a product. For me, I'm totally fine with that. And that's why like I don't have any moral like opposition to AI and thinking like, oh, it's evil. I just don't think that I just want to reduce the profit motive from where AI will be taking over so much of the music that is consumed. AI is a tool to make people more creative. Absolutely. That's only a positive thing.
Okay, so let's talk about something you just said. I think we can pull us back on track here. Thank you for indulging me on the AI piece. So let's talk about motive, right? You're always going to have, I think, you're going to have people who make music because they love music. You're going to have people who make music because they love music, but they have a unique skill set that then allows them to monetize that. And then you're, of course, going to have the people who are doing it simply because they want to hit it big and make $1 million, right? So can those, I mean, I think we know the answer is those people can coexist, but I think you're saying the current structure of the way that music is made or just the music industry is kind of squeezing out those people who just make art for art's sake. Is that an accurate, is that a fair characterization of your thoughts here?
I mean, those people are still there, like, and heck, there might be more people. There are tons of people like that that are just making that art for art's sake. Um, the people who want to do it because they want to get rich and famous, I mean, I think that got some bad news for them. That gets harder
Yes.
every single day. The person who's going to get rich and famous, like doing that, like making music or really any sort of art, it's going to get harder and harder and harder every single day. Um, and I think that uh, between the consumer side of it and the artistic side of it, I just want our society to be more focused on that creative side for it. That's what I want people to be like. That's what I want our society's focus to be on, not to be on like um just the overconsumption of stuff that is stuff that is incentivized to be a consumer product, not to be something that is genuinely expressed.
Okay, so how do we do that? And I'm not asking you to solve this global. I understand these are historic and legacy things that have plagued not just the music industry, right?
So
Film
here,
and
all right. So
television.
here's where it gets a little controversial. And with you, you're going to push back on this as an attorney here. I think that we should change the copyright laws and like the fair use laws. I think that if music if music was all freely available, like any recorded music, if there's a public database you could go in and you could download any recorded music, or if there was a piece of recorded music you could upload it to a public database, and all music was freely available and you could use it for anything you wanted. You could take that, you could chop it up, you could make it into a some sort of mashup song. You could do anything you wanted with it and you would not get sued for taking somebody's intellectual property. I think that that would be a boost to creativity. One, it'd be a booster for creativity. Two, it would destroy the business model for the streaming services. For Spotify, like I think Spotify would love nothing more than to have all of the artists be AI generated, and they don't have to pay any human people. That they just have people listening to, audio wallpaper all day long, and they are paying the service to the algorithm to give them exactly what they want. I think that's the end game for Spotify. I think the way to fight back against that is to say, well, if you could choose between that or have a database of all of the music that is available for free, you would go for the free one. And I think that it would turn people more towards um, thinking of music as something that is creative instead of something that is um, a product that you buy.
Okay, so allow me to, and I think push back intellectually, less legally, because I understand completely the case that you're making. So I'm an artist. I'm a musician. Or let's use you as an example because you're much closer to a musician than I am. You decide instead of COVID, when you're 20 years old, actually, you're going to pack up, you're going to get a guitar, you're going to maniacally practice, you're going to teach yourself, you're going to take voice lessons, you're going to start writing, and you're going to set out into the world to make your way as a musician, right? I think we can agree. Now, yes, the quality of music, and you become a great musician. Um, that comes from playing gigs and recording music and understanding how music is made and built. How does that person, without the commodification of music, without being able to license it to Spotify to sell for streams, or to have a concert that people pay to get in, or to buy an album, how do they live? How do they survive? How do they support themselves if somebody can record them and throw it online and there's no, you know what I mean? Like, you're buying
Well, I
something.
mean, I've got lots of friends who like they've been playing music. They've been in bands since they were a teenager. They've been in bands
Mhm.
consistently the entire time. They're like a billion times better musicians than I am. And when I say this to them, they're like, "Why do you hate musicians so much? Why are you trying to put them into the poorhouse? Why are you trying to take money out of their pocket? Like aren't they down and out enough? Like none of them get to play music full time. Everybody's got a regular job." They think that I am like they think this is a crazy anti-musicians stance that I'm taking. And I'm trying to tell them, no, this is a pro music stance that I'm taking. I think that if you uh, if you go out and you can put on a performance and people want to pay to see that performance, you can get paid that way. I think that if you uh I think that any sort of like but that is steering stuff more towards live experiences, community building. Like if you are good enough to that people want to pay to see you, then that you are creating value. But as far as like, but I'm just strictly talking about like recording and distribution. Like the like for recording and distribution, it's been solved. Like we can distribute it for zero. And like that's where all the money was made before was in like the distribution and in the recording. That's the technology that like that made the entire recording industry for the last 100 years. That has been solved. Like we know how to distribute it for nothing. You can get like right now you can get every single song in the world like within the next 2 seconds.
Yeah, I was telling my son about how, back in like the 90s, I would like wait and listen with a tape recorder to record the song I wanted to hear on the nightly countdown. And he just, he rolled his eyes at me and he's like, "Well, like, how did you like learn songs?" And I was like, "You just took them as they came." But I think setting that aside, I you got ahead of one of my questions, which is great. I was gonna say like, you know, the distribution piece of it is solved for, right? It's a frictionless, seamless, inexpensive way for people to have their music heard. I think about your friends saying, "Why do you hate musicians?" It's like, and I'm not saying your friends romanticize a specific time and point in time, but I think about like, the record label era, right? I mean, it was known for like chewing up and spitting out artists. It exploited them. It owned the masters, incredible, incredible musicians who like toiled away in the studio, right? And made incredible songs that like changed people's lives. Saw like pennies on the dollar for that, right? And so I think about the evolution of the way that music is recorded and distributed. Yeah, the technology of recording and distribution is now, at a place that it's never been before. And so I think, what's your answer here? I mean, your point is for musicians who want this to be a living, then you need to be good enough to draw people to a live concert, and that's how you make your money. Or I guess just is. And again, I'm not asking you to put like a fine point on this because it's a layered perspective, but I'm just curious, like what's the answer? How would you change how things are done now besides
Here's what
IP law?
I would like to see like if the government did anything to like support music, I would say get instruments in the hands of kids when they're super young. Build a society where like learning how to play and how to communicate through music is something that is taught to everybody. Some of those people are going to be super awesome. All right. Some people are going to be amazing. They're going to be so good that other people will pay to see them. And like, will they be able to make a living for that? Maybe a handful. But for most people, it is going to be a hobby. And like, everybody's trying to solve the, like, how do you preserve the business? Screw the business. Like it's why are we just fighting over these pennies here? Like we're talking about something that is like so important and like deep inside of people, and here we are, we're fighting over the like who gets the rapidly diminishing scraps because like the perfect AI algorithm is like taking up so much of the market share. We've got it all of inside ourselves. We should be able to be focusing on just like not thinking about it as a way to make money from it, a way to express yourself. If everybody could just increase a little bit the amount of that they could express themselves musically, that would just be better for the art form and it'd be better for society too.
I mean, I definitely agree with most of that. I definitely agree with the very end.
Which
I will
was the part you don't agree with?
I mean, it's not that I guess it's not that I don't agree necessarily. It's I kind of can see the visualization of what you're saying all the way through to the end,
Yeah.
right? I think there's questions along the way on some of that. But look, I think the government putting instruments in the hands of kids is a great idea. I mean, yeah, our kids go to schools. I know your kid, your daughter is musically inclined, and I think there's things that you know, all of my kids go to a school where there's a music curriculum and things like that, but I think it's probably falls short as far as, teaching kids how to play instruments, right? I think the recorder, we've kind of reached the societal limits on how much great music you can create with a recorder, but guitars, pianos, drums, it's all private, right? I mean, my daughter who's 12, she takes guitar lessons. It's kind of in the hands of the individual to go out there and seek that kind of further ability to just even understand how to handle an instrument or how to read music. And so that all makes sense to me. And I will say the idea of every person creating 10% more music or whatever their art form is, right? I think music can be kind of plugged and played here throughout for any sort of artistic expression. I think that's a good thing, right? I know how much I enjoy listening to my AI generated music after it's lyrics that I've written. So it's a good thing. I absolutely agree with you. And I think you make a great point about like licensing and royalties, right? I mean, that's one of the things that we've seen with the Spotify's or the Amazon Musics or the titles or whoever the distributor is like artists have to have like millions and millions and millions of plays just to see like, a few $100s. And so I and again, I guess the other side of that is artists who really want to make money. I've heard artists talk about this. It's like you make your money from touring and from merchandise, right? You're selling a tangible experience or a T-shirt or something like that. So, look, I don't think on balance I agree with you. I think these are some compelling thoughts, things that I had not considered previously, right? I haven't stepped back and thought like, how do we fix it? But I think restricting or loosening IP protections and fair use and educating, government subsidized education and exposure to music early for our kids is, you know, what is the byproduct of both of those things? There's more for people to enjoy and it's easier to enjoy. It's access, right? And I see no downside with that because, you know, the radio is free. I listened to music on the radio. That's my whole childhood was music on the radio, right? I had like 3 CDs until I was like 16 years old. So I mean, you've convinced me. I came into this a little bit like, we'll see. Like this is some hippie whatever. But I mean,
Trust me, I know this is the most space brain, like hippie opinion that I have here.
this is safe space though,
And
Matt.
also I know that this is completely unrealistic. Like you can't just destroy an entire industry like that. And if you like got rid of like the copyright laws, it would destroy an entire industry. Like
Yeah, it would be
that
like
does not
martial law,
it
right?
doesn't
Like,
it
yeah,
like what I'm arguing passionately for though is I just want our society to just focus more on the creative stuff. Everything in our society is pulling us more towards just profit motive, towards like,
mhm.
efficiency.
Followers,
And
clicks, likes, subscriptions,
yeah,
all that.
yes,
Totally,
yes.
totally.
So I mean it is like it's pulling you away from those sort of grounding things which make art, music, storytelling important. You talked about how you only had like 3 CDs. You think about um you can pull up like when you want to watch a movie and it's not on streaming, you're like,
You get mad.
where is this?
Yes,
It should be here. Like
right.
we're in 2025. I definitely should be able to stream any movie I want to on demand right now. But when I think about like the best movie experiences I had, it's ones where it's like, "Oh, you know what? Remember we had to drive to Bloomington to see that one movie because it was only showing at the theater. Remember, like, the car broke down and we had like, in college, and we had to walk all the way to that movie theater to go see it." Like, when there's a barrier to when there's a little where it's a little bit of friction and you have to work for it, when you could only go to the store and buy 1 CD a week or
Yeah.
a
Well,
month
you
to
listen to
to
the hell
to
out
go
of that
get
thing,
it,
right?
and you listen to
Yeah,
that over and over and over again, you had a much stronger relationship with it, and it wasn't
no
so
doubt.
and I what I think are like my kids who love music, I don't know if they understand that sort of relationship that you can have with something
Because it's
where
disposable now,
you had
right?
to work for it to
Yeah.
get to it. And like that I think is I think that's a very good thing creatively, is when you do have to work for it. And when you talk about like, hey, I took the lyrics and I plugged them in and I got this really awesome sounding song. Look, that song is a billion times better than anything I could record. But
But here's the
also,
thing. Go ahead.
but the working for it, whether like that, for me, it's like like noodling around and working it out on the guitar. I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. The fact that there is a little bit of pushback and it's hard and I'm not good at it and you have to get like incrementally better. That's the point for you. Like oh, hey, like I've been working for 30 years writing this sort of stuff. And like, the more that I write, the better I get at it. That's the important thing. Like the end product, if all it was is the end product, then AI is going to make a better end
Right.
product than
Hey, AI,
any
write a
of us
song
will.
about
Any
my
of us will.
relationship.
And if
Totally.
that's what we're measuring against, then we're cooked. We're
Yep.
done.
Yeah.
But if like we have to remember that like we are humans that have to work for it. Like that is part of the human experience is like that discipline and like applying yourself to something that didn't come easy. And even even if you never show it to anybody, and frankly, even if you suck at it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any value at all. And that's the biggest thing that I want people to think differently is that the music value is not a dollar value. The music value is like it's like a shared humanity value. Like that is the
It's a connection. Yeah. It's absolutely for me. Writing is catharsis, right? I mean, some of the things I've written in the last 18 months have helped me work through like battles I've been like working through my whole life, and like putting it down on paper and then sharing that with somebody, and somebody saying like, "Wow, like this song, like totally I connected with it and it resonated and it made me think about my dad." And I'm like, whoa, like I was not expecting that when I wrote it, right? I was working through my own things. So look, I think, you and I could probably talk about this for hours, and I would love to have you back on again at some point to talk about favorite songs. It doesn't always need to be such a controversial topic, although this has been fantastic. Before we drop, I was going to ask you to make a closing statement. You already made it. I mean, you made it 5 minutes ago, beautifully. So, I got a couple of quick questions for you, more playful but music adjacent. I'm going to rattle them off for you. Give me a quick answer to each one. Um, AI. So, if you had to pick one Christmas song, we're in the holiday season, that you would take and hand over to AI to rewrite or remake forever. Like, hey, the machines can have this one. What song are you sacrificing? And so, in other words, like, what song have you heard enough in its current form, and you're comfortable having the machines remake it and give it to us in a different flavor?
you know what? Give me new versions of All I Want for Christmas Is You. That one is I can that one does not hold a special place in my heart. I like
Sure.
listening to it, but
Hmm.
if you took that one and bastardized it, I wouldn't shed any tears. If you
Okay.
screwed with green sleeves, I'd be a little upset. But you can have All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Got it. All right. Next one, a little more public domain facing. So if you can snap your fingers and you can take one legendary artist's catalog instantly, going back to your earlier comments, right into the public domain. No labels, no estates, no recording and licensing. It's free for everyone anywhere to use at any time. Whose catalog are you liberating and why?
Um, That's a really good question. Actually, so do you see that Steve Cropper? Can I say a label? Could I say Stax? Could I just say like anything that came from the Stax studios?
Give
Uh,
our listeners, give our you're an aged gentleman. Well, we're around the same age. Like, give me a song people would know from that label.
um,
Is there one?
like Green Onions, like from
Okay.
Booker T and the MGs.
Okay. Okay.
You'd recognize that one, even if you don't know the
Yeah. Yeah.
band,
Yeah.
you'd recognize that.
And what is it about that label that you would want out there? Just you think
It's
it's
just it's soulful, you know.
okay.
Just like it's uh I think that anybody that listens to that, it makes them feel something.
Okay. Okay. Next question, 3 of 5. So you get to organize a single concert. Everybody has to put their phones away. No recording, no streaming, pure, like you had to be there energy. Who's on stage and what do they open with? Living or dead, by the way, living or dead.
The band that I would want to see am really like I would love to see Thin Lizzy.
Okay.
And I think that seeing Thin Lizzy at the height of their powers, as a live act, like, in the '70s would have been incredible. I don't
And
know
what
if
do they open
everybody would
with?
love that, but I would
Well, not
I
everybody's a
would
guest on
love
this
to see
episode.
that.
It's you. So
What?
I said, no one, not everybody is a guest on this episode. It's only you.
Yeah,
So,
alright, yeah, it's my
so
show,
Thin
alright?
Lizzy,
Like,
what are they opening with?
what are they gonna open with? The Boys Are Back in Town.
Okay. All right. Fair. All right. So for the rest of your life, you can experience music in one format: streaming, CD, the original iPod, vinyl, or live shows. Which one are you choosing and why?
Live shows 100%.
Yeah.
I
Not
mean,
a
that is
controversial take.
yeah, that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. All right. So final one. And I know you're not a studio musician yet. You're still young. Would you rather be forced to collaborate with an AI model on any song or track you ever created, or accept a lifetime ban on using any digital tools and just straight up, recorder, guitar, voice?
Um, like I said, I'm not against AI, and, like, you found a use for it that enhanced your creativity. That very well could happen with me too. And like I said, like this is not like a Luddite, like anti-technology take that I'm having. Anything that does that like enhances that ability to draw emotion out of people, that's the thing. And if you have to use a digital tool to do that, do it. But what's in here is the important stuff.
Got it. Okay. Well, listen, Matt, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for being the first ever guest on the Case for and the second ever Matt on the Case for, and for bringing something to this big, messy, interesting idea, concept, issue to the table. For people who want to hear you play live and make the trek out to the suburbs of Chicago, do you have any live shows coming up?
No,
Okay. Let's
no.
change that.
Okay.
All right. That's okay. I appreciate it. I know you played a lot over the summer, and I commend you. I think it's an incredibly cool thing to do in this act of your life. You're so many things, as we talked about at the onset of this, but to add, public musician who's out there in the world just bearing his soul, I think it's incredibly admirable. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you play again soon. This has been the Case for Music Being Free and related topics with my guest, Matt Anderson. If this episode made you think any differently about the songs that you stream every day, take a second this week, support a human artist that you love, buy a record, a ticket to a show, a t shirt, or just send them a message and tell them what their music has meant to you. Matt, thank you so much for being here. Happy holidays. I'm Matt Campobasso. This is the Case for, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Matt.